seeing him bat. He might yet, of course, he could be X-factored in. And Arjun Nair is the other on the bench after losing out to Brendan Doggett today. For the Perth Scorchers, Cameron Bancroft and Joel Paris make up their bench. The players are mingling, ready to get out there. We're almost ready to start in Perth, and I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by veteran T20 test man, Sussex, Essex, England legend in a natty pair of tracksuit bottoms which sort of screams, I'm going to work. It's Ravi Bopara.
Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good, thank you. It took me a bit longer today to get out of bed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, to get out of bed. Yeah. Well, I mean, that can happen. I mean, it's especially in these cold wintry, aren't they? And the darkness in the morning is very discombobulating.
It is.
Because it doesn't quite make sense. I don't know, do you get the kind of the gaspy wake up, you know, when there's like...
No, not quite. I'm sort of straight when the alarm goes off. I usually then... No, well, I sort of put it on... what do you call it when you snooze it for a bit?
Yes, snooze is a serious danger.
Though, isn't it?
Snooze, yeah.
It's a dangerous sport.
The problem with snooze is it always feels like the right thing to do at the time, largely because you're fast asleep.
Correct.
Anyway, look, we're all here. We're all ready to rumble, and these are the two, as I said, the two sides probably in the best form at the moment. Sydney Thunder top of the table, but there's the Scorchers, although they lie currently in 7th, they won their last 3 games. If they win this, with their already superior net run rate, they'll climb to 4th, just behind the Strikers, just above the Strikers, I should say, just behind the Hurricanes, with a game in hand over both those sides. They're sort of turning their season round, aren't they, the Scorchers?
Yeah, well, they've always been a good side, haven't they? Throughout the years of BBL, they've always done well. I think they've got the best record in the BBL. So you expect them to do well. They always recruit well, and obviously very strong this year as well.
Liam Livingston at the top of the order has yet really to fire, just 66 runs at 16. And neither really is Jason Roy. He's not had a bad tournament, 124 runs, 4 readies at 31. You wouldn't argue with that, but he hasn't quite got going. Last innings he was finding it a little bit difficult to get going. At Perth we've seen, with the new ball often, you don't get off to a flyer. You usually sort of make up the runs towards the back end of the innings. It's a different kind of pitch there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Jason Roy I wouldn't say he's been in the best of forms, I would say, in the last 6 to 8 months. So he's probably just finding his feet a little bit, and all batsmen go through that. You know, everyone goes through that period. And I've said it before in T20 cricket, you've got to be confident from ball 1, and that's difficult when you're not scoring runs.
Well, he's about to face the first ball of the match from Nathan McAndrew. It's on his pads, clips it away nicely through mid-wicket. First runs of the day, and there could well be 3, the lesser spotted 3 in the T20 cricket. They are going to get back for 3 to a raucous and rapturous reception from the crowd. If you are just waking up and joining us, firstly, I don't blame you. Secondly, you will have missed news overnight of what's happened in the Test match, where Australia, I'd say, made a fight back. They're never really out of it, but they posted a possibly under par 338 in their first innings. But, well, they bowled out the Indians for 244, despite a dogged half-century from Shea Pujara and some lower order resistance from Ravindra Jadeja. I get so infuriated that Ravindra Jadeja doesn't play in every single match for India, because he's got the best stats of any all-rounder in the world and has had for some time. But took 4 wickets the first innings, had an unbeaten 20-odd today, as McAndrew is in, and Livingston drives nicely straight to mid-off, and there's no run. But Australia closed on 103 for 2. They are now bossing that game in that series, which currently stands at 1-1 with just these 2 games to play. I saw and read a lot of infuriation with Pujara, who ended up being pretty much the top scorer, as if the idea is that, you know, he was going too slowly, because it's very easy to hit Pat Cummins, Josh Hazlewood, Mitchell Starc and Nathan Lyon all over the park. It's quite extraordinary stuff. McAndrew into Livingston again, who guides this nicely, but straight to short third man, and there's no run.
Yeah, well, I can tell you by experience facing those guys, it's not easy to just go out and smack it, especially in Test cricket. And if your team's in a little bit of trouble, you don't want to be taking those kind of risks. But he's a fine player. I actually enjoy watching him, and you know, I'm one of those guys that likes a little bit of a fast-paced game, but just watching his technique sometimes just.
McAndrew in. Oh, that flies through, beats McAndrew's Livingston's prod, goes through to the keeper, no run. I'm glad you've said that, because I'm sure you're very well aware of the editor of one of the monthly magazines. Is a big fan of yours, by the name of Phil Walker.
Yes.
And he tweeted today. I was very surprised. He said, worse to the fact that no one's got the guts to admit that they don't enjoy watching Shea Pujara. Well, if he knows, as McAndrew is in, and that's off the thigh pad of Livingston. Now, did he really play a shot at that? As it runs down towards the boundary, it's scooped back to the keeper, who's Sam Billings, has run all the way down with fine leg to collect that, and runs have been given. I don't know about you, Ravi, but that looked to me like not really a shot.
No,
is that evasive action?
A little bit. That's definitely rushed him. It's bounced on him a little bit onto his midriff or top of his thigh pad, and he's trying to pull out the shot. Oh, no,
hang on. He actually did hit it. I'm so sorry, it's an optical illusion there. I thought it had actually, as Ravi said, I thought it had come off his body, but no, he's got a bit of glove on that, so he picks up a couple of runs. And McAndrew's last ball is smacked by an advancing Livingston down the ground to cutting at mid-on, but can't beat the fielder. His intent was very clear there. He wants to get on with it. What we've seen in this first over, though, Ravi, is a pitch with a bit of life and a bit of bounce. And Nathan McAndrew, decent bowler, but he was rushing both batters.
Yep, there's definitely a bit of pace and bounce in this pitch. Like to see Pat Cummins on this pitch.
Well, indeed. Well, watching a bit of him yesterday, he's just a supreme bowler in Australian conditions. Hazelwood and Cummins. I don't know how you score a run off them. The command of length, the bounce they get off the pitch. I just don't know. You can't get on the front foot, and it's not short enough to.
Yeah, it's a funny one, Australia, because they are good wickets to bat on. They're very good wickets, probably some of the best in the world. But there's very few bowlers that know how to bowl on it, and it always seems to be those Australian bowlers that, you know, they're taller, they're a bit stronger, and they hit the deck hard, and get the batters sort of playing away from their bodies where they get those nicks, because it's got that extra bit of pace. Instead of those back foot drives and back foot pushes sort of going towards the covers or point, they sort of feather them through to the slips and keeper.
When I think about it, I think back to England's most obvious recent triumph in Australia in 2010-11. It was noticeable, wasn't it, that England picked Finn, Tremlett, Broad. They wanted sort of tall, quite wide bowlers, which seems to be the way to go, isn't it? And actually, Australia's attack in that series was sort of Hilfern, House, Doug Bollinger, but splendid bowlers, but not, you know, those really wide,
those
big guys.
Smack the deck sort of bowlers. Yeah.
Adam Milne is in. Adam Milne is pacey. How's he going to go on this pitch? Well, the first thing he's done is fall over in his delivery stride, flatten his face, not release the ball. He's going to have to start again. And like every good fast bowler in this situation, he now examines and scrapes away at the crease with his feet, as if to say that had nothing to do with me or my boots. As sort of, nasty. Now I've seen him do this before. What's happened there is that his back foot, his right foot, which is the one he's going to take off on, if you like, has slid from under him, and that could have done nasty things to an ankle. As it happened, he sort of glided across the turf, wide of the off stump, very wide of the off stump, and a wide will be given. So the first delivery that Milne has bowled is yet to be recorded as one. 6 without loss. The Scorchers.
That's a horrible feeling, that, actually, because you've slipped. Now you're coming in for your second delivery, and you know as a bowler what sort of damage that can do to your ankle or whatever, your knee, and then to run in again full pelt and to trust everything. I'm not quite sure he was trusting everything there.
No, it didn't look like he was from the ball. He's in again. That's short and under edge from Roy. Goes into the ground and is picked up by Sam Billings. So 4 English players in this match. And you'd have to say that all 4 of them have been in contention for a World T20 side, were it not for the fact that Alex Hales is out of favour at the moment. Hales is beginning to find some of his form, though, in the last few matches. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on a pitch like this, the ball coming on against a very good Perth Scorchers attack. We're really coming together in the last few games. Milne in, and that's beaten Roy outside the off stump, who hasn't yet got the pace or the bounce of this pitch. He's sort of smarted at the ball.
I think it is a difficult pitch to get to straight away get used to the pace and bounce. You're not quite sure what are going to be the effective shots, and sometimes, you know, sort of when the bowler does pitch it up, it still does rise from that sort of that length, that full length. So it does take a little bit of time to get used to it.
Michael Carberry, who played obviously for the Scorchers for quite some time, so obviously Milne is in, clipped away nicely by Roy, down to fine leg, long leg even. There's nobody there. There's a deep backward square, but he wasn't fine enough to get hold of that, and Roy has picked up his first boundary. He moves to 7, straying on the pads there. Milne will be annoyed with himself. 10 without loss. Yes, Michael Carberry said that when he arrived at the Scorchers, there was notice where he and Klinger sort of encouraged, so at the top of the order was encouraged not to go off like a train, because it's actually those first 6 overs are tough, whereas, you know, in England we might try and capitalise on that new ball on softer pitches. Milne in again, and Roy Basis with soft hands and dabs it into the offside square of the wicket for a single. They scamper through for the single. 11 without loss. See, we should expect, should we, a slightly different pace of play at Perth?
I think so, especially in the first 3-4 overs. I think once you get used to this pitch, probably one of the best pitches to bat in the world, because it does have that bounce. And as a batsman, you don't need as much movement. You know, it's minimal movement, and you play with your body weight and hands. Ball comes on quite nice, slides on and pings off the bat. So it then turns into an unbelievable wicket to bat on. But I think just that initial period, you've got to be smart and have a look.
Milne tears into Livingston, who drives off the back foot. Oh, and it's dropped at point. I don't think so. McAndrew at point. It landed maybe just in front of him, but there is no run either way. Livingston is definitely, he's got 2 off 6, but he's showing a lot of intent at the moment. No, that did land just in front of McAndrew at point. It was in the air for quite some time though. Livingston slashing away at that.
Just touching up on Alex Hales, I mean, it just seems like no matter what he does or how many runs he scores, he just doesn't get considered for a spot.
Starts to feel like it's vindictive, does it to you? Do you think? Milne into Livingston, who swipes at this, doesn't really time it, manages with one hand off the bat to get it down to Alex Ross. Deep backward square leg for a single. He'll keep the strike. He has 3, Roy 8. Scorchers having been put into bat by the Sydney Thunder here on 5 Live Sports Extra Big Bash coverage. 12 without loss. Yes, let's get back to Hales. Do you think it's vindictive at this point?
Look, I don't want to say anything that's not true, but he has done well in the last couple of years. I think he's got a lot of T20 runs. Obviously, being an opener, he's going to score a lot of T20 runs, but he scored at a decent pace. He's looked comfortably one of the best openers around in T20 cricket. And I know that's a strong batting lineup, that England side in T20 cricket. I get that, but it just seems like he's probably missed out quite a bit. I think, you know, there has been times and opportunities where they could have put him in.
As you said, Jason Roy's not been in the best form, has he? So, you know, England would want a backup. They've got Johnny Bairstow going for the batting and Josh Butler, of course, as well. But you have to wonder whether, you know, he's not been given even a chance. Doggett into the attack. That's hit high in the air by Livingston. It should be taken. Billings is underneath it. It's gone high, and Billings has taken it comfortably. Ended up taking it around about a point where sort of a gully might have been. Livingston went for a wild smash over deep mid-wicket, and he got a thick top edge. It was in the air a long time, but Billings judged the catch perfectly, and Doggett into the attack. Brendan Doggett into the team, replacing Arjun Nair, has got a wicket with his very first delivery. The Scorchers 12 for 1.
I think that's just a prime example of the Perth pitch. I mean, getting used to it and playing cross-batted shots early on. You know, he's gone for a sort of a pull shot there, and it's just bounced on him. He's an extra bit of bounce and caught the top edge of the bat and gone straight up. And that's the difficult part of batting on bouncy wickets, where it takes a little bit of time. You've got to play a little bit straighter for longer until you've got the pace and bounce on the pitch.
I feel a bit for Liam Livingston there. He was trying to do the right thing. He didn't actually look becalmed as such. He timed a couple of them reasonably. They went straight to fielders. He felt the need to get on with it, and
played a lot of shots for his 2 runs or 3 runs.
3 and 8 balls. So
he does that though. He does play a lot of shots. But that's the fashion in T20 cricket. I've noticed around the world, a lot of people get picked up in leagues for the amount of shots they play, opposed to how effective they are.
Interesting.
Not
sort of intent, the sort of intent. The
intent, yeah. So a lot of people are getting. I think it's a big thing now, getting contracts around the world and picked up in auctions and drafts. And I've seen a lot of people get picked up for the intent rather than the actual.
Doggett into Roy again, played with soft hands to the gully region, straight to the fielder though, and there's not a run. Roy on strike because the ball is in the air so long the batters had crossed. Well, certainly you say that Livingston does show intent.
He does. He does show a lot of intent.
You're under no illusions as to what it is that he's trying to do. We're just seeing the hang time of the balls and how long the ball was in the air. And it was really, that's quite a long time. 5.97 seconds for the ball to go only about 10 yards on the bat. Roy drives, hammers this down the ground with a horizontal bat mid-on though, straight to the fielder. And there's no run.
There's a lot of thinking time in those 6 seconds. A lot of thinking time. I remember here at the Oval against the West Indies, someone recorded a hang time for a catch that Bravo hit straight up. I was standing at extra cover, and it was 7-point-something seconds.
Ooh. Doggett in, that's slapped through the offside by Roy very powerfully, but there is a fielder out, let's say on the boundary. Alex Ross, he's not on the boundary, he's about 10 or 15 yards in from the boundary, just in front of the point. And he manages to cut that off. The batsman pick up 2, 14 for 1, Roy into double figures.
So all sorts of things go through your mind in those 7 seconds. You're thinking about the bowler. You know, he's worked hard.
You're already thinking about him.
He's worked hard to get this wicket. It's gone straight up. Oh, it's Bravo as well. You know, dangerous. The situation of the game.
Doggett's in. Oh, and he's gone for the reverse paddle. That's an incredible shot from Roy because the ball hurried him. It was short. He moved across the stumps. He ended up taking one hand off the bat as he flicked it over Billings and down to the boundary for 4. That was extraordinary. I say it's extraordinary. T20s, you see that. Well, you don't see that exactly, but you see shots like that every day in T20. This one was remarkable because it came onto him so fast that it bounced so more, I think, than he was expecting, and he probably got a bit of thumb on that.
It's actually not a bad shot to play on this wicket, to help the bounce, just get it straight over. You know it's not really going to hit your stumps unless they're bowling really full.
Doggett in again, and that's gone high in the air. There should be another catch for Billings in almost exactly the same position. He does take it. Roy's gone. Both Englishmen have gone in that over, both caught by Billings. The Sky has taken it around about gully off the bowling of Doggett. Doggett's got them both 2 for 6. End of the over, 18 for 2. Roy has got to go.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's quite one of those wickets where you can just plonk onto the front foot and play heavy shots like that. It's a more use the pace sort of wicket. And why wouldn't you, with the amount of pace and bounce that is in this wicket, is to take just be a little bit smarter and use the pace and bounce. Use it to your advantage rather than your disadvantage.
We're just checking the front foot, and it's absolutely fine. Almost the entirety of Doggins' front foot on landing is inside behind the popping grease. And a disappointment again for Liam Livingston and Jason Roy, both going without making a massive contribution. As Rover Parra says, you might be better off there. Use the bounce, try and ramp it down to third man, try and hit it square.
I think on this wicket you can use the pace of, rather than, which is the typical English way, I think, is to smack the bowler back over his head and hit the ball that way. Actually look a little bit more squarer maybe on the offside. The one, actually, looking back at it, the one sweet shot that Roy played, the one that he really got, was a shot that he made a bit of room and it through the offside, which he hit the hardest and hit the cleanest, and that's probably a way to go on this type of wicket. When you do have that bounce and pace, you can create a little bit of room, and that room becomes even more room.
Now what's going on? What's going on here? Jason Roy was hanging around by the boundary's edge for a while. They were checking the front foot low ball, then they were checking to see how high it had bounced, weren't they? It was around about shoulder height. There was no problem with that at all. He advanced on the ball, Roy. That was his problem. And now he's trying to play a shot that I've seen him execute successfully at the Aegeus Bowl, but the ball doesn't bounce quite so dramatically there, which is basically the sort of flat bat 6 over extra cover. I'm afraid on this occasion for him, it went straight up in the air and he was gone.
Definitely not the type of wicket where you want to be looking to smack the bowler back over his head. It makes no sense percentage-wise.
It's got to be really full for that.
It's got to be incredibly full. I think the way to play, or the way to attack it on this wicket, is give yourself a little bit of room and attack that offside and use that bounce. You know, some are going to go over third man and some you're going to hit clean over point and cover. You'll get your value then and make the bowler bowl a bit fuller, where it might become a little bit easier on this wicket.
I want to get back to the ball being in the air when you're trying to catch it in a minute. Chris Green into the attack, the back foot. Munro punches into the offside, straight into the covers. There's no runs. The last over of the power play. 2 surge overs still to come after the 10th over.
Again, 20 for 4.
Green wearing a pair of really quite dreadful boots. A colour that's offensive, frankly. It's cut into the offside by Munro. He's going to pick up a couple of runs. A slight misfield at extra cover. Prevents a boundary, but gives away 2 as Ben Cutting tidies up 20 for 2. So when we commentators say, I wonder what was going through Ravi Parra's mind while that ball was in the air.
That was
because sometimes I think, well, nothing's going through his mind while the ball's in the air. It turns out that everything's going through your mind.
All those things are going through your mind at the same time.
Green in, short again, and that's lofted over the top of point cover region by Munro. Give himself room outside the leg stump, but just managed to get it over the infield, and they've come through for another 3 runs. 2. That's the second 3 runs, if you like, for the first 21 balls of this match. 23 for 3, the Scorchers.
And at the same time, I was saying to myself, right, watch the ball, head still, watch the ball, head still. Technique, you know.
Yeah. Because when it goes that far up in the air, speaking as an amateur, the problem we have is, you know, we look up like that, we sort of lose our balance, our necks go back, we start to swirl.
Yeah.
So what do you do to sort of make sure you are balanced in the right position?
Well, I was telling myself on that particular catch, don't let the ball get behind you, because once it gets behind you, then your head tilts even more. Green in,
and that's pulled viciously by Inglis out to deep mid-wicket. McAndrew does the fielding. They'll get through for 1. 24 for 2.
Once the ball's in the sky and it gets behind you, then your neck has to tilt a little bit more. You lose your balance. Then you have to you have to run backwards, which is a tough thing to do, and then your head starts bobbing all over the place.
So the key is to sort of make sure that it's sort of in front of you.
Yeah, well, the key for me especially is to keep the ball in front of me.
Green full toss, driven all back at Green, who drops it. It was an extraordinary bit of cricket. That is a gentle, relatively flat full toss, around about shin height, hit rather casually by Munro. Back at Green, two-handed knee height at bounced off his hands. It could easily have cannoned into the stumps,
which
could have run out the non-striker.
Non-striker would have been out.
It's missed that. It's cannoned away for a single, and Monroe to 6, 25 for 2. Last ball of the fourth over. We'll get back to you in a sec. Ravi on that score. Chris Green looks a lot like a player who used to play for Surrey. Burke, as that ball's cut into the offside. And fielded at point. End of the over. 26 for 2 with that single. Inglis has 2. Monroe has 6. 8 off that Green over.
Yeah, and I think the important thing for me is to keep the ball in front of me, where I can see it. Because if I need to run forward, that's a lot easier to do than having to run backwards and trying to catch a ball. So that's one of the most important things for me.
And tell me about the white ball as well in the sky. I mean, obviously at night you'd imagine it would be easier. During the day,
it just depends where you're playing. At the oval, you're absolutely fine if it goes in the sky. Don't have much trouble. The lights are very, very high, so the ball never really goes out of the lights. Whereas you play at some of the smaller grounds, like Chelmsford, for example, where the lights in the past have been quite low. Once that ball gets above a certain height, good luck, because it turns into a little pea. You can't even see it. And
it goes into the night sky.
Yeah, it goes into the night sky, and then you think, okay, well, I'm under this.
But I don't know precisely where it is.
And then as it comes down at pace, you suddenly find that you're about 10 foot away from it.
Oh, that's a sinking feeling. Dog it in full through to the keeper, missed by Inglis, and there is no run. So of the bowlers, you see, you said was up in the air, and I'm thinking about the bowler.
It was Jimmy Anderson, by the way.
Yeah, now we love Jimmy on this programme. He's a colleague of ours many times, or one-day matches. But he strikes me as a man who doesn't really... I mean, no bowler likes the ball being dropped off them, but he'd probably let you know, would he? Yeah,
because he's so good at catching, so, you know, he's allowed to.
Yes, I sort of imagine this. Doggett is in, and that's hit up and over and down to a deep backward point, where a very valiant attempt from Tanvir Sangha is invaded. He attempted to dive, but he did dive full length, right hand outstretched, and he nearly got there. It would have been a truly spectacular catch. Again, the bounce in this pitch that got up around about shoulder height, and Sangha, look, he was committed to that.
Got a hand to it.
He did as much as he could. He did, as you say, get a hand to it. That's why he's so disappointed, because he was on the verge of pulling off an absolute stunner there. He was at full stretch. It just didn't close his hand on it. It bounced off the hand, clipped away into the short mid-wicket's hands, Ben cutting into the ground. There is no run. 30 for 2 with that previous boundary from Inglis.
And that just given that example, they're using the pace on this wicket where he's used the pace, he's cut it away, he's got his boundary, and then suddenly the next ball, the bowler's bowled full at the stumps, because he feels, well, I don't want to get cut again. I don't want them to use the pace. And he's bowled
exactly where you want it.
Full at stumps, and he was an half body he's missed out on, but
Dog it in again. Picked up those 2 wickets in his first over, short, wide, outside the off stump. That one strangely kept a little bit low into keeper's gloves. 30 for 2. The England women's fast bowler Catherine Brunt notoriously remembers every drop of her bowling and reminds.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen her do it. I've seen her in action in a bar, reminding, it might have been Jenny Gunn, about a drop from 10 years previously, just in conversation. Dog it in, pushed it to the offside, glided really down to Tanvir Sangha, third man for a single, 31 for 2. And I can imagine Jimmy Anderson just giving you a sort of laconic reminder 4 years later. That's how you could take a lot of wickets, Jimmy. Yeah, would have had one more if you caught that.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing you'd say, yeah.
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 31 for 2. It's the last ball of the fifth over. We're out of the power play. Don't forget, in Big Bash, it's a 4-over power play, and then 2 overs of surge that can be taken after the 10th over. X-factor substitutes may come in. You never know today. With Perth having lost their top 2 wickets, they don't want to bring in Bancroft. You never know. Later on, as the last ball of the fifth over is square driven by Monroe to backward point. 32 for 2, the Perth Scorchers, having been put into bat by the Sydney Thunder on winning the bat flip. This is a match between the two form teams, or two of the form teams in this year's Big Bash League. Thunder on top. The Scorchers, though, can rise to 4th if they win this. More thoughts from Ravi Bopara on a slightly stuttering start. And for the first time today, it will be Kevin Howells.
Yeah, it's been an excellent start here for the Thunder. They've been certainly on top. And it looks as if it might be a good idea to use that sub now after losing 2 early wickets. It's for the listeners, it is a lot of bounce in this wicket. It's hard to describe, but you wouldn't be able to imagine how much bounce is. Some of the length balls are going above shoulder height.
McAndrew in and drives that to mid-off the start of this 6th over, and the score will move on to 33 for 2. What a way to start our proceedings, you and I. Me interrupting you, it's just not on, Ravi, and I do apologise for that.
No, I'm sorry, because at the same time while I was describing all that, I was trying to order what sort of coffee I want. So I was sort of confused as to what sort of coffee do I want, and also telling the story of what's happened.
Two things at once. You and I, neither of us can do that. You know that, I know that. One thing at a time. Anyway, you get that coffee sorted whilst English is on 7. McAndrew is coming in, and he bowls now, and that's off the hip, just turned away square on the onside for a single for English. He'll move up to 8 and take the score to 34 for 2 in the 6th over. So both these not out batters, English and Munro on 8. Just a word moving from Australia to Sri Lanka with news that frustration for England's cricketers as heavy rain in Hambantota has led to the abandonment of their practice match without any play being possible today. The squad now has gone off to Galle ahead of the first test on Thursday, so frustration there for the England camp. Next delivery, this is Munro this time, pushing it square on the offside, trying to get this ball ticking along for the Perth Scorchers midway through the 6th over, now to 35 for 2. Ravi Bopara, practice and rained off matches and you can't really get going, and I mean never before we've been in this situation with COVID, of course, on these tours and everything that's thrown in with, you know, the quarantine and everything. But frustration for players when you go off on tour and you can't get those practice matches played, maybe it's just or get too much proper time out in the middle as McAndrew comes in and bowls to Inglis, who fires that away into Cutting, who dives to his left hand side. Not too sure if that carried or not, but it was a good stop on the onside and there will be no run. But back to the tours and the frustration if you can't get proper time out in the middle.
Well, for some it will be, but I would say for 99% of cricketers it will be another day off, and no cricketer complains when it rains. I think over the years cricketers have come to enjoy rain.
2 balls left to the 6th over. That was the answer I thought I might get, and I did. And that one is pulled away by Munro. He'll get a single, couldn't get hold of that one, so he just moves on to 10 and the score up to 37 for 2. 1 ball left of this 6th over.
It's incredible bounce in this pitch. It surprised me big time here. I've never seen it like this.
Just some sort of delay. Did that actually hit him on the helmet as he got hold of that one, or tried to get hold of it? Because I think we're going to have a little bit of a break here just to have a check. We haven't actually seen a replay of the shot to see if it did strike him anywhere. There's certainly a delay. Both these batters have been dropped, by the way. Difficult chances. English on 2 and Munro on 5, and he must have just got a little bit of I'm going to say a little bit of a knock, but we'll just take a look at it again. Finally getting to see this again for a second time. Oh, right in the middle. That was a real header into the back of the net, wasn't it? I thought he must have got on his bat into that, but oof.
Yeah. And it's not a bouncer. It's just a sort of a back of a length ball. He's gone for a pull shot and hit him straight on the badge, which again just describes the bounce in this pitch. It's extraordinary. Even the spinner was getting bounced above the waist, which is unheard of.
It is. So obviously a bit of a delay here. They're going to make sure that he's okay to continue, and they will not be rushing this, which just gives me a chance to just go through what has happened so far here in this match, which has been set up brilliantly by Dan, of course, because the Scorchers have a chance of getting themselves into the top 5. The top 5 being significant in this table of 8, or the ladder of 8, because if you get yourself in the top 5, you reach the knockout stages, and the Scorchers got off to a stinker of a start in the competition, but they're now coming to this game on the back of 3 victories, 2 of them here at this stadium as well. It seems if perhaps they didn't enjoy the fact they'd travel right down to Tasmania and right the other side of the country to start off with, but they're back at home certainly, and they're getting some victories, just putting them in a good position. They're still second from bottom in the table as it stands, but it's very tight from the Scorchers right up to the Thunder. The Thunder at top on 22 points. So with their position at the top of the table, if the Scorchers could get another victory tonight, there'll be 4 wins on the bounce and a real confidence boost, and important points to see them move into that all-important top 5 as we go just over the halfway mark of qualifying to reach the eliminator stage of the Big Bash 10. I think it's going to be okay, is Munro. The staff that have come out to have a quick check on him have now returned, and he's smiling, and you can actually pick him up there if you just listen very carefully. Have a bit of a chuckle, which should be a good thing. So Inglis is on 9. McAndrew will finally get to finish his 2nd over. It's the 6th over of the innings, a partnership of 19 from 17 deliveries, and it's Inglis facing, and that's driven into the offside, and there will be no run. So it took a while to get that last ball that over, but we got it. 37 for 2 after 6 overs. Inglis and Munro, they've had a couple of chances, but they need to rebuild following a less than happy start really for Jason Roy and Liam Livingstone, and that really pretty much sums up what this competition has been for both Roy and Livingstone so far, Ravi.
Yeah, it's not been a great competition for the both of them so far. I do expect them to get a score at some stage, both good enough players to do that. And slightly surprised, I think, as well, because I don't think the Big Bash is as tough as it used to be. It has, I think, gone a little bit down in its standard, I would have thought. So you'd think that they'll come out and dominate, but not quite, and that's not always the case. It doesn't matter what sort of level you're playing, you still got to score runs and do it your way. And
this is Cutting coming in now and bowling just wide of the off stump and reaching for it, and hit it very nicely, did Munro, out towards deep extra cover. You can hear the crowd cheering in the background. I think there's about 7,000 of them there, which is extraordinary to hear those numbers. It's a big stadium, of course, they're in Perth, but it's lovely to hear about numbers like that back at Sports Stadium. And they certainly are cheering every run, including those 2 being scored by Munro. He moves to 11, 39 for 2 in the 7th over. Cutting again, back to his mark, the bearded Cutting, and in he comes past the umpire to bowl fairly straight and push square on the offside. There will be no run. You talk about, I don't know if you were trying to avoid the word quality, or whether that's what you meant about this competition, or standing, you said. Why the drop, do you think, Ravi? What's going on?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's got something to do with none of the international players ever being available to play, but I think the standard over time has gone down quite a bit. It's certainly not as good as it was at the start.
Cutting coming into Munro, happens to be one of those international players of a sort, and that's pulled away through square leg, and he'll get a single. He'll move to 12, and the Scorchers up to 40 for 2 in the 7th over. But of course last year was notable, the competition, because the international series had finished just in time, if memory serves me correctly, for the international players to come back for the knockout stage, which of course gave that a bit of a boost, didn't it? To have those back. I think they may have been available for a couple of games, just a couple earlier on in the competition.
I think the Big Bash,
Cutting in again, sorry to interrupt, and this one is in the air. Will it carry over the fielder? Bounces just in front at mid-off, and no run.
Another attempted shot up back over the bowler's head. I think Perth batters look quite learning from the first 2 dismissals. It's a sort of pitch where, again, you want to use the pace and bounce, but again they're attempting to hit it over the fielder's head straight, which is a dangerous shot. It keeps coming off high off the bat, and luckily actually for him it didn't quite carry.
So again we await Cutting to come back in to bowl, and Inglis takes a look around him. Cutting's got 2 deliveries left of this over. He bowls now, and that's pushed back again to the left hand of Cutting. Bowling nice and tidily here is Cutting. To English, we mentioned earlier, by the way, there are 4 England qualified players in this match tonight. You can add another 2 if you, well, you can add another 2 if you want to talk about players born in England to all of that. Of course, Jason Roy is actually born in Durban in South Africa, but Josh Inglis, Leeds born, and actually been involved with the Yorkshire Academy and the Yorkshire Second 11. So he's another one you can add to the English roster if you like, but he's very much an Australian playing for the Perth Scorchers here, and he's on 9 not out next delivery and helped on its way down towards fine leg. A real swing of body and bat together for a single for Inglis. He moves to 10 and the score at the end of the 7th over 41 for 2. And the one that I didn't know about was Aaron Hardy, born in Bournemouth. Dorset is Aaron Hardy, a young player just making his way as well, but of course firmly established, I think, now in the Australian system. But just to add those couple of names, if you like, for a little bit of added, if only strangely and by some distance now, an English link to this game. But the Scorchers, after 7 overs, 41 for 2, English on 10, Munro on 12, and work to do here for the batting side. Ravi Bopara.
Yeah, a lot of work to do, I think. It's been difficult to get started on this wicket for the batters. It's because of that extreme pace and bounce, which is not normal. It's not the sort of thing you come up against much in your cricket days, and it's something that it takes time. It takes time to get used to it. I think once a batter does get in, I think he'll be very dangerous because he'll be able to use the pace and bounce and get the ball to carry over the ropes. But up until then, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a fight to get yourself in and get going.
So it's the introduction of Tanvir Sangha to the attack, and boy, what a season he's having. He's having a terrific season, right at the top of the wicket takers in the competition. His first delivery, though, has that travelled? Yes, it's travelled wide of the fielder in the deep, and that is going to be a 4. The crowd again cheer. 45 for 2.
Excellent shot there, actually, very well placed, made a little bit of room and just popped it over extra cover for a 1 bounce 4. Beautiful shot.
It was Sangha just making his way in the competition, and he, as I say, has got joint top with 15 wickets as he's in now and bowls, and that's a catching opportunity. Is it? No. You heard the shout of catch, but no way Hales could get to that. Moving in as closely as he and as quickly as he could.
I like this from Inglis. I think put pressure on the bowler. He's obviously taken a lot of wickets, but switching the pressure right back on him straight away from ball 1.
Munro on 12 not out. I mean, just seeing English move to 15, 46 for 2. 2 balls into this 8th over, and Sangha with his spin again, just playing his 9th T20 game of his career. And in and bowls, and looking to whip this one away on the leg side was Munro. Doesn't make any contact with it.
I feel like there's a conscious effort to put Sangha under pressure here. There's been 3 big shots played at his first 3 balls here.
He's still a teenager, is Sangha, and he's in and bowls, and much experience, of course, of Munro, under edge down into the ground. You can hear a little chat there between Munro and Billings, who got very excited about it. Did Billings, the keeper? Well, I don't think he got really excited about it. It actually hit him on the grill there, bounced right up into his face. Billings. Now this has gone high and straight. Has this got the legs? It should have. We just wait and see just how far it's gone. And not quite into the 2nd tier, but down into the bottom tier. It's a 6, and the crowd love it. The Scorchers move to 52 for 2, and Munro is on to 18. 1 ball remaining at the 8th over.
Yeah, and I just felt like there was a conscious effort to put pressure on Sangha here. They want to take him out of the attack early on and score as many runs as they can off him, because it's been difficult against the seam. So good thinking, I think, from the batters here. Put a lot of pressure on the leg spin.
Next delivery, that's played out into the onside, and there will be 1 run. So we wait to see, just having a look at the X Factor players. I think the other night we saw the introduction at the sub stage of a spinner brought on as an X Factor. 53 for 2 after 8 overs, though. Inglis on 15, Munro on 19, and Sangha has gone for 12 runs from that 1 over. But this bounce, even though it's still relatively new, it isn't that new now, a stadium there in Perth. None of this should take anybody by surprise, really, should it? As difficult as it is for batters like Roy and Livingston to get on top of it all, people know about it.
they're not. You can know about the bounce, but it just seems like this is a bit extreme. I mean, some of the length have been going on shoulder height, which is, you don't often see that unless you're playing on a very bouncy indoor wicket in the winter season.
So Munro 19, Inglis 15, 53 for 2 after 8 overs. And we wait to see now Milne, who's going to come into the attack. Milne, of course, New Zealand of origin, and he comes in and bowls and hits him on the pads. Munro, who remains on 19. So Milne will know Munro. He'll also, of course, Milne will know Sam Billings, the wicketkeeper, and he's bowling to at the moment, following a little spell with Kent as well in the past. And a quick mention for these shirts, Ravi. Lovely designs, great designs on the shirts of both the Thunder and the Scorchers. Not their usual designed on a shirt, and that's especially for, I think, a couple of games to mark the indigenous culture of Australia, as Milne is in and bowls, and that's pushed into the offside by the left-handed Munro. And again, they'll scamper through for 1, and Munro up to 20, and the score 54 for 2 in the 9th over. And it was almost perfect fitting that Brendan Doggett should make such a big impact on his introduction to the competition this season, to take 2 wickets as he did in his first over, because of the fact that I think relatively recently his family have found their blood links to a group of people, the Warramie people as well. So he was really proud to be involved with matches such as this and wearing the shirt. So that was great to see as Milne is in and bowls. This time to Inglis, away through mid-wicket. Has he found a gap there? He certainly has. It's 4 runs. 58 for 2, make that 58 for 2 in the 9th over.
Yeah, good shot there over mid-wicket. I think he was looking to that a little bit straighter. Bat turned in his hand a little bit on impact and sort of probably went in the right place, actually. That's probably exactly where the result was good, but I'm not sure he was trying to hit it quite there.
Inglis has moved to 19 off 16 balls for the Perth Scorchers, and Milne now will bowl to him full. Bottom edge of the bat doesn't really get hold of it clean. It actually still goes quite some way up towards the long on boundary rope, but he'll just get a single. He'll move to 20, so both batters now 20 not out, and it's 59 for 2 in this 9th over.
Sorry, just going back to the BBL, and I think in the first few years of Big Bash it was seen as the competition. I think all the other competitions around the world looked at BBL and said, look, this is the model we want, and these are the best players in the world, and it was seen as the best competition in the world after the IPL. But I think over time it's I think that's probably worn off. I think that thought process.
Interesting. Munro on 20 tries to lift that over the top of the keeper, but actually doesn't get anything on it, and he's grateful for not getting anything on it. I think there's a little tickle there, and that was straight into the gloves of the keeper. Again, I mean, the bounce. Ravi's been talking about it and tries to lift it over the top, but just looks all puzzled back at Milne, who's got 1 ball left of his second over. 59 for 2 is the Perth Scorchers score. They were put into bat, the Thunder choosing to field on winning the toss, or the bat flip. Munro tries again to put something behind it. He'll get something on it, but only enough to send it out to Ferguson in the offside. He'll keep the strike, Munro. He'll get a single. 60 for 2 after 9 overs is the score. Well, the thing about this BBL 10, Ravi, there was an awful lot of excitement about how many English players were going across. It seems to be the credibility of the tournament has an awful lot, not entirely, but has an awful lot to do with how many players of calibre from other countries you can attract into it.
Yeah, exactly, and it does. That obviously is the big selling point, is some of the overseas players that come over for any league. But I just don't think many players look at Big Bash either. When I've heard a lot of players say, I'm not going to the Big Bash, or have been offered to go to the Big Bash and have turned it down because I'm not sure it's seen as the number 1 league to go to anymore. Which is a surprise a little bit, because you'd think Australia would continue to make their league better and stronger. over time.
Well, you would. We've got Doggett coming back into the attack now, and he's in the start of this 10th over, and Munro can't get him away. He's had a terrific introduction to the competition as well for this season, brought into the team. The first one is just hammered, but straight to a fielder into the offsides. There'll be no run. It's still 60 for 2. So, I mean, the IPL clearly is the number one. What comes second to it now, do you think?
Standard-wise, I would have thought the PSL is right up there, I think.
Yeah.
Especially the bowling, I think.
Munro on 21, again, can't get it away. He was looking to drive that handsomely through the offside, and it ends up back in the hands of Doggett. Can't get the timing right.
I think the PSL's bowling standard is very, very high, but the T20 Blast, I think, is a great standard. It's a tough competition.
I mean, that doesn't get too many big international names, does it?
No, because I don't think
because of the time of the year and everything.
I don't think it needs it.
Doggett coming into Munro on the leg stump, clipped away in the air, but it's going to be safe out to the square leg fielder. Right arm throw. I think they'll just have to settle for one again. They're struggling to turn these into twos. 61 for 2 midway in the 10th.
I don't think the T20 Blast really needs those massive overseas, but it's a very good standard as it is. I think the 100 will be an incredible standard. I think that will, I'm looking at it and looking at the caliber of players. You're looking probably one of the best and the strongest leagues in the world.
English 20 not out. Doggett now bowls to him. That's another wicket for Doggett. What a terrific day for him. Brendan Doggett, 3 wickets now for 13. He's only bowled 2.4 overs, brought into the team here this evening, and he's now got rid of Inglis. Inglis has been dismissed. He tried to clear his way to create a bit of space outside that leg stump, and, well, I'm not too sure did he get anything on it. Onto the stumps anyway. The middle one is rocked back, and that is 61 for 3 now in the 10th over. Inglis has gone for 20 off 18 balls, bowled by Doggett.
Yeah, it was just making a little bit of room. It's obviously been a clear plan from the Thunder to bowl really full at English. Most of the balls that they bowled to him have been straight and full at the stumps. He doesn't move his feet very much. He's more of a sort of sit-back player, and it's obviously been a clear plan. And that plan has come off. It's always nice as a team or as a bowler is when your plan comes off just like that.
Well, it does. But what a night for Brendan Doggett, having a terrific time. In terms of his career figures, take a look at Doggett now. This is actually his 24th game. In terms of wickets, he's now taken 23, his best being a 5 for 35. So he's experienced in the competition. And talking of experience, Mitchell Marsh makes his way out for the Scorchers. Now, he knows all about bounce in this part of Australia. As Ravi has said, maybe this is just bounce and more, exaggerated, so let's see how he gets on here this evening. And it'll be Doggett who now bowls to Mitchell Marsh, and Marsh will try and help that on his way. First ball, he plays it away behind square on the leg side for 4.
Yeah, attempted pouncer there, first ball, but he's swatted that away behind square leg for 4. Beautiful shot first up, especially on this wicket where it does take a little bit of time to get used to the pace of bounce. He's swiveled and knocked it behind deep square for 4. Great start.
Mitchell Marsh, who came into the competition with a bit of an injury which was preventing him initially from bowling, but in terms of runs, he comes in having scored 172 runs previous to this game this season. That is again same spot in the air. In fact, it's in front of this time of Ross. It is, I think, who's running round. It is to his left-hand side to do the fielding. It won't be a 4. Marsh will get 2 for it. So he's looking at that area at the end of the 10th over. 67 for 3. Those last 2 balls away on the onside. But there we have it. Midway point. 10 overs gone. 67 for 3 is the score. All of those 3 wickets have gone to Brendan Doggett. We wait to see if we're going to see any X-Factor subs brought in, and your thoughts, Ravi Bopara, on what we've seen so far.
I think Thunder still definitely on top, having just taken that wicket of Inglis a couple of balls ago, but Perth Scorchers still in with a chance. Some of their very, very experienced players at the crease now. I think if they can look to score up around that 150 mark, push it to 160, they're in with a chance, especially with their bowling.
And we also welcome back Dan Norcross. I think Ravi's going to take a little bit of a break to drink that cup of coffee that somehow was beautifully made for him. And Dan, we welcome you back with this little game that we now have to play, which is try and work out if either side are going to introduce an X-Factor sub. I think one of the telltale signs for me, it's not so much a telltale sign, but what we're looking for is if the umpires and if the coaches come out with a piece of paper that needs official signing off for a change of personnel. And so far I've not seen a piece of paper in anybody's hand.
So that is genius on your part. I've been trying to read the rules of this X-Factor sub and constantly get caught out by it, I'm afraid. But it was something that we wondered if it was going to happen at all. I remember Stefan Schemmel made the rather bold claim some time ago that he expected us to go through the entire tournament without seeing an X-Factor sub, and I understood his reasoning. And then unfortunately for the ball lad, that very game actually there were 2 X-Factor subs at the 10 over mark, about 3 overs after it said it. But it's tricky, isn't it? These squads aren't incredibly full of they don't have as much depth perhaps as they might have done in other years because of COVID. So the 11 that you tend to put out is the one that you want. I think where you will see it happen more often is when a side has lost a few wickets early on, and in that event then they might I have to interrupt my thoughts because they're back out there in double quick time, and the very first ball after the drinks break has been smashed over deep mid-wicket for 6 by Colin Munro. What a shot that was. It was too full from Sangha, and he was able to just swipe that across the line into the crowd for 6, the left-hander, and moved to 28.73 for 3. So yes, I think if you lose early wickets, you might think about putting in another batter if you've got 6 bowlers in your original starting lineup. Also, we need to see who's bowled 1 over. That's often a telltale sign. Shorter and just pushed into the offside this time by Munro as he gave himself room outside leg stump. Picks up a single. 74 for 3. The Bash boost point also is going to be available for Sydney Thunder should they make 68 at the end of their 10th over, 68 or more. And that's been the sort of target we've seen throughout this year's Big Bash. The side's not really getting off to sort of 90 or 100 in the first 10. Played off the back foot again, this time by Marsh into the mid-wicket region. No run. We tend to see that the sides capitalising on the last 10, especially when they have the option of this 2 over surge. Full again, but waiting for it is Marsh. He just pushes it into the offside past the diving extra cover for a single. 75 for 3. Marsh to 7. In exceptionally good form at the moment, Mitchell Marsh, off the back of a quick fire 50 in his last match. Very influential one that you might argue won the game for the Scorchers. Munro just works this into the onside, up to wide, long on for a single, waiting for it. 6 off the first ball, and after that things have quietened down a touch, just singles thereafter. 76 for 3. 9 runs have come in this over with 1 ball remaining. Marsh back on strike as Sangha tosses the ball from hand to hand, and Marsh again just easily works a straight ball into the onside. Let's get the hurry up as the throw comes in, and at the end of the 11th over, Scorchers 77 for 3. So have you got to the bottom of it? Have we got no X factors, do you think?
I can confirm, Dan, no X factor from either team. Confirmation of that. Talking of the innovations, of which of course the X Factor is one for this competition, those pundits who follow not only the Big Bash but also the IPL have been asked questions over the last 2 or 3 weeks as which of these innovations can you see being taken on around the world, and maybe the IPL. And the one that they actually perhaps could see of the 3 that we've had, Bash Boost Point, the Power Surge and the X Factor, the only one that generally the pundits think could be taken on is the X Factor one, and that is based on the fact of quality of players and the size of squads, which we'll go back to perhaps.
Ben Cutting comes in for start his second over. It was a slow bouncer that lands just in front of the keeper as Marsh pulls out of a pull. I tell you very briefly on the X Factor, I'm quite surprised, that Chris Green perhaps wasn't factored out. He's bowled the 1 over on a pitch that it helps the bowler who bowls it that little bit shorter. Perhaps you don't need quite as much in the way of a spin option. They've got Oliver Davis on the bench. They could have taken Green out there. They're bowling Cutting the second over, and they've got 2 from McAndrew, 2 from Milne. Doggett's taken 3 for 19. He's got 1 left. They're going to keep Sanger in there as he's their leading wicket taker. Down the leg side, flicked away before. Fine by Marsh to the right of short, fine leg. And that's a wonderful piece of delicate, finessed cricket by Mitchell Marsh, moves to 12.
It's got a different feel since he's come out to the middle, a real definite feel about it. Yeah, the size of the squad, and how many quality players do they have in various IPL squads that get very few games within the competition? And perhaps, therefore, they could be used a little bit more with the use of subs.
Makes sense. Cutting in again, clips into the onside for a single. They think about 2. They will get 2. That's brilliant running as throw comes in. He played that with soft hands, did Marsh. It'll just be on the 30-yard circle and allowed them the time to get back 83 for 3. I'm surprised, I think the boost point, I quite enjoy it, but I don't know how much it's worked. And it also allows for the curious anomalies we've seen where the Renegades have been beaten by 120 runs, but have managed to squeeze a point out of it by, limping to 71 for 8 after 10 overs. But I think the surge has been the most successful innovation in this year's competition. Cutting is in. It's punched off the back foot into the covers. There's no run for Marsh on this occasion. Goes straight to the fielder because it means that the side can come back from a poor start. It gives the crowd something else in that last 10 overs. Waiting for the momentum shift. It causes the fielding captain certain concerns, how they manage their bowlers, who they're going to have left to bowl in those 2 overs. I think the surge has been a terrific innovation. I'd like to see that in all T20 myself, as Cutting is in. And that's come off a leading edge as Marsh looked to turn it to the onside. It squirts up to wide long off for a single. Where do you stand on the surge, Kevin?
I'm all for a surge, and you know that. I've been telling you about it for many a year. But the thing is, regarding the bash boost point, I've seen it work on at least 2 occasions where a team may have felt as though they had no momentum, things weren't going their way batting second time around, and in trying to get to that bash boost point, they've actually picked up a bit of momentum which they've then carried on. It's also worked the other way, which of course has meant that the game I'll pick up in a moment.
Cutting in wide of the off stump, sort of clattered away really without timing by the left-handed Monroe to backward point for a single. He goes to 31. The Scorchers after 12 overs, 85 for 3, 8 off that Cutting over. Marsh has 50.
I can't recall too many games that have limped on for a long period of time to a very long and sorrowful death, if you like, because of the bash boost point, where they've actually had a go and actually the game's over, and we're not hanging around for too long afterwards. So whether that's a positive or a negative, that's the way that's worked. But in terms of this power surge, still great debate, of course, as to when it should be taken. And I think that the data, or the data, as some people like to say, is starting now to sort of make some, if you like, definitive reading of the teams winning matches tend to be taking it in overs 14 and 15. That was what I was hearing the other day. And obviously it's still relatively a small sample size, but it's around that 14, 15, 16 over mark where the winning teams are taking it. Although I also heard a theory the other day which I sort of contradicts that, doesn't work to that, but I thought was a good one, which again maybe we can expand on over the next over before it is actually taken, which it may be soon.
That's what I partly love about the surge. See, there's so many ways to slice this cake, skin this cat. Doggett in to start his 4th and final over, beats Monroe with a ball in the channel that goes through to the keeper, no run.
Because generally they're taking them late at the moment, aren't they? They tend to be taking them late very often, not always, but very often when the power surge is being taken, it's being left to those late middle order to late order batsmen to actually try and make something of the power surge, because in this situation, for example, Marsh and Munro going very well, but oops, one of them's out, then another one's out, and you still haven't taken your power surge.
Flicked away into the onside of the pad, and they're going to pick up a single for it. Yes, I mean, the thing about the surge is that it's how well does a bowler bowl, and does the side that's batting lose a wicket? If it loses a wicket early in the surge, it can cause all sorts of calamities. You know, see 2 or 3 more go down. I've seen the Hobart Hurricanes have lost 18 wickets during the 2-over power surge, not obviously in one 2-over power surge, but over the course of the tournament, whereas other sides have lost 3, 4, 5. So, you know, it can really affect your momentum, but it can affect it positively. We saw a game the other day when Dan Christian managed to help his side to 49 runs in a power surge when they had been limping at around 60 in the 10-over mark, and it got them what they needed to win the match in the end. Cut away, it's straight to backward point, and Marsh has got to go. That is a big and important wicket. He's not going to get the benefit of the surge, and Brendan Doggett, he's got all 4 wickets to fall. And now I wonder whether Marsh will be wishing that they had taken that surge at the start of this over. It was short, it was hit firmly in the air, round about head height, taken well, two-handed. The Scorchers now 86 for 4. Brendan Doggett, who's come into this side to replace Arjun Nair, can hardly believe his fortune. Chris Green with the catch there, very sharp catch as well, it has to be said.
So Doggett's best figures in T20 are 5 for 35. As I mentioned earlier, I think there is more than a hint of genuine emotion for him being involved with this match because of the ties and the connections to the indigenous culture which they're marking with the design of the shirts and everything. So a terrific night for him and his family in watching him do so well here this evening. But back to the power surge. Yeah, if you took it early, you're also taking 2 overs out of supposedly the best bowlers that the opposition have got as well, so they can't be relied on later. But again, if you've got a decent attack, well, you should be able to overcome that, I would think. But that's part of the theory. But we're waiting for this data to come out to show exactly when is the best time in terms of the winning team so far. And as I said, I heard the other day that overs 14 and 15 were proving quite successful.
I mean, I think it's going to be hard to be definitive, isn't it? As a full toss from Doggett is just pushed back by Ashton Turner to the bowler. There's no run. I mean, I think, you know, if you take it in the 14th, 15th over and you're 2 wickets down or 3 wickets down and you've got 2 set batsmen and they don't get out, then that's really going to work for you. You might find that you can't just say to yourself, I'll take it in the 14th though, because you might have 2 new batters at the crease, for example, and you might think, I want to gamble another couple of overs, get them in, get their eye in. As Doggett's in again, short on the pads, and that's gone fine past the diving Billings down towards spine leg boundary. They'll get back. Well, they won't get back. They'll just pick up the single and wait for the umpire's signal. Must have been a little bit of bat on that, I think. 87 for 4, yes. Turner got a bit of glove, I think. 1 ball left in the 13th over. Doggett about to complete his spell, 4 for 20. Great return to the side for him. He picked up both English openers Roy and Livingston in his first over. Livingston with his very first ball as he comes in with this upright approach to the wicket and is driven firmly by Munro through extra cover, and a superb diving stop on the boundary by Alex Hales is going to prevent the ball thudding into the sponge. They get back for 2. Munro 33, Turner has 1. The Scorchers 89 for 4 after 13 overs. Come what may though, Kevin, I mean, the only impediment it seems to be about the surge is how it affects Duckworth Lewis. I was listening in to poor old Henry Moran trying to work out what was going on the other day when rain was coming hither and yon. And of course, when you have this extra surge, Duckworth Lewis Stearns been predicated on the 6-over power play, and it's all worked out by resources and what have you. Of course, this is a whole new way to calculate comparative data, isn't it?
It is. That is one heck of a crowd noise coming in. We can barely hear you.
Sorry.
Let anybody. Well, we're the ones who are sorry. Yeah? We are the ones that are sorry for that. But yeah, tell them to pipe down a bit there.
Well,
all this excitement.
I've tried that, but it doesn't make any difference.
Well, we're just going to have to send a message to them saying, shh. It's great to have a crowd back, but just a bit quieter, please.
Yeah, I can't say as I played. I think if I was in a crowd,
I think so.
I don't know how I'd restrain myself. Ben Cutting, with his beard, comes charging in to start his third over, and that's a lovely flip from Ashton Turner that's going to run down to the boundary before he got that nice and fine over Sam Billings' head. He moved across his stumps, and they play that shot. They practice it all the time these days, but still, it still comes as something as a marvel to me. It was full, not that full, and Turner's really just used the bounce to elevate the ball fine and to the left of Sam Billings, down to the boundary for 4. 93 for 4, Turner to 5. Monroe in at the other end. You might get your 15th, 16th over wish for the surge, I think. Slower ball by Cutting, comes off thick outside edge and runs down to back to point for a single. 94 for 4. Running out of time to do it, though. If they want to do it the optimum time, they've got the Howells optimum surge.
No, it's not mine. All second hand, you know me. All second hand. But the thought was, though, that it would be at the end. I mean, I'm losing track, even at this time of the year, losing track of the days of the week. But I think the idea would be the start of next week, when something actually was going to sort of be published, which would give us some proper understanding of it. But we wait and see.
Monroe with this open stance waits up for Cutting down the leg side, pulled firmly down to deep backward square for 4. It's a loose ball by Cutting. He's trying to avoid going full on this bouncy pitch, but that was a slower ball into the pitch. It didn't get up, around about waist height. Monroe simply had to swivel and pull it down to the boundary. 98 for 4.
Trying to see where this ball ended up. Did it actually hit? There's a camera operative on one of those things you ride around on the outside of the ground. Oh no, he was fine. It was just his wheels it hit, not him.
It's just hit the wheelie thing. That looks quite fun. That it's like a sort of very advanced golf buggy, driven down to long on, just for the single though. 99 for sort of more like a kind of fancy Segway without the handles. You ever tried a Segway, Kevin?
No.
I could see you Segwaying.
I dare say you could, but it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
I can see it's looking tall and noble and upright.
Oh, tall and noble and upright. That's me all over, but not on a Segway.
Well, that's a great shame. I think you've got to give the punters what they want to see. Start the petition. Cutting in, and Turner, it's full ball, which he clips past mid-wicket, down towards the boundary, but Hales field. There's one more. I was talking to Ravi earlier as the 100 comes up, 100 for 4, about Alex Hales and his continued absence from the England side. Do you see a way back for him?
Well, it's a difficult subject to talk about, because clearly there is stuff that's gone on behind the scenes, of which, everybody picks up a bit of gossip here and there, and the answer to your question at the moment is no. You can't see a way back at all.
You can't, can you? Which is a shame, as Cutting is in to complete his third over. Full, driven hard by Monroe, but straight to Alex Ross on the cover boundary. One more to the total, 101 for 4. Monroe will keep strike. He has 39. Ashton Turner, the veteran captain, he has 7. 6 overs remain, and we wait to see whether they're going to take this surge. A man has come out with a towel and a drink. Is this a brains trust meeting which will result in a surge?
Well, I tell you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the umpires, I think, having an animated discussion as to who's going to signal it. This is their big moment. They've told the entire family at home, you must watch tonight, because I could be doing my wax on, wax off. And they've been practicing in front of the mirror. What do you think? Once, twice, 3 times maybe, and then 3 again. And I think one of them's got a bit miffed. It might not be him tonight.
But they could both do it, couldn't they? I mean, I think that would be the fairest way to do it.
Well, I don't think that's allowed, Dan. But I think in a much better world that we'd all like to see, Daniel.
Well, you could do it to
the way forward.
Both sides of the ground is what I'm thinking. The bowling up. Here
we go.
There we go. This is it. The wax on, wax off, as you say. It starts with a clockwise motion with the right arm, and then you get an anti-clockwise motion with the left.
I don't want to be picky because you know it never serves me well, but I think that was more of a windmill than a wax on, wax off, and quite frankly, I'm disappointed. Anybody can do a windmill. It's style that does the wax on, wax off, and whoever that gentleman is, and sorry, I should know his name, and he's a very fine umpire, I'm sure, and a person, but work on it for next time, please.
This is a very dangerous can of worms you've opened up here. Adam Milne back into the attack on the pads, flicks the foot, runs away to the boundary, fine for 4. It was 2 full. It's 4 leg byes signalled by that umpire who's coming for terrible stick from Kevin Howells. The score moves to 105 for 4. It won't show up on Adam Milne's analysis because to this day the cricket world insanely does not attribute leg byes to bowlers. I've seen bowlers go for 19 runs in the first over of an innings, which 12 have been ill-directed leg side deliveries that go down to the boundary, and then their bowler at the other end has gone for 9. In the book, the one who's conceded 19 has got none for 7. It drives me mad to this day, Kevin. Milne in again, on the pads again, full, clipped away by Munro, only for a single, down to Ross. He moves to 40 with that, 106 for 4. The problem is, if you encourage too much histrionics, too many histrionics, with an umpire, I mean, what would Billy Bowden do with the power surge? Can you bear to even imagine it?
It's all about entertainment these days, Daniel. You know that, I know that. And I think he would add, as I say about all innovations, if they add to the game, they're fine.
Yeah.
And most of them, in fairness, do.
Yeah.
The X Factor ones at the moment, I'm not too sure about that, but it's still time out on that one. We'll wait and see.
Do you know, Ravi Bopara had an absolutely brilliant suggestion for how the X Factor could help wicket keepers.
Has he spoken about this on air?
He has. He's spoken about this on air. He has. Don't worry. It's you know, it's all out in the public domain. Fear not. And he's here with me now, so he'd let me know if you objected. Full toss, even pushed it to the offside by a turn. He'll get a single. Callum Ferguson tidies 107 for 4. He said, because this was at a stage in the competition where we hadn't seen an X Factor sub, and he said he mused you could play your specialist keeper for the first 10 overs, you know, a pure gloveman who might be, you know, not the best with the bat, because that's when the ball's going to beat the bat more often. It's going to come through the keeper more often generally. His first 10 overs, Milne hurtles in, the left-handed Munro off his pads, runs away to the boundary again for 4, and Adam Milne in this over has conceded 2 runs, but he hasn't. He's conceded 10 with ill-directed deliveries, but according to his figures, this has been a good over that's gone .1-1 when it's really gone 4-1-1-4. I can't let it go. I can't let it go. You want entertainment with your umpire. I just want to see justice in leg byes. 111 for 4. Yes, he says you can use your gloveman for the first 10 overs and then sub him out for an inferior gloveman who's really a specialist batter. Munro in, and that's attempted ramp. Munro off Milne. It's going to be given as a wide, is it? I think it is. For height, it's a short ball from Milne, looking straight down the pitch, and that didn't look wide, but until you see it from side on, when you discover that it really was wide, and the umpire got that spot on. 112 for 4. Now, of course, you wouldn't always necessarily do it that way, but it was an interesting thought. I thought might bring the pure gloveman back into T20 for 10 overs at least. Here comes Milne, rocking from side to side into Munro, who aims a big yahoo and misses it completely. It thuds into a pad, and is that a rueful expression? How would you describe this expression from Colin
Painful.
Munro? Bit of pain.
I think there's a bit of pain there. I think he's sort of.
Oh yes, midriff pain.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know, would you? Because he's just looking as if he's frustrated, sort of tapping the bat, well, you know, moving the bat there as if to say, oh, what I could have done with that shot. But actually, deep inside, he's thinking, blooming, nor of that hurt.
Well, that's Kiwi on Kiwi violence for you, and no one likes to see that. 112 for 4 with 1 ball remaining in Milne's over. Full toss, and beautifully finessed for 6, I think. What a shot that is from Munro. It moved across his stumps. Again, Milne tried to fire in the full ball on the legs, and Milne has simply placed the bat on the ball, timed it, got an up and over short fine leg over the boundary rope for 6. Superb shot of a man very much seeing the ball pretty well here now. 118 for 4 after 15 overs. Monroe has 46. Turner has 8. We're in the surge. I didn't note how many runs came. 16, I think, came off that over, including 8 leg byes. I'd leave you in capable hands for the last 5 overs of this innings. Kevin Howells and Ravi Bopara.
The average first score batting first at this ground is 171 at this Optus Stadium, and at the moment the Scorchers sit on 118 for 4. But Turner and Monroe, great deal of experience. Turner, in terms of his career, he's a little bit younger, isn't he, Turner? But well, this is still his 99th game. He's 27 years of age. But it's Turner facing the moment. He's lifted out high and mighty. It's gone a long way over the leg side. How far? And I thought we were looking into the crowd, but it's not gone that far. It's fallen, but the other side of the boundary rope. It is a 6. That seemed to be travelling a mile, and it probably did have to go a long way to get as far as it did, but it wasn't into the crowd itself. Got hold of that. Ravi Bopara's back with us again. That's a great shot for you to come back in and see Ashton Turner get himself a 6, move to 14.
Yeah, it's been a great surge so far as well. I mean, the 7 balls that they've had, they've scored as many runs as...
Chris Green, it is bowling. He's gone this time on the offside of straight, and that has cleared, and that has gone into the crowd.
It's a beautiful shot, that.
Turner to 20 with that 6, 130 for 4 in the 16th.
That's a beautiful shot. He's made a little bit of room and played with a straight back over mid-off for 6, and it's a great start to the surge, I think. And I was itching to say, actually, a bit earlier on, that the last over, it wasn't a bad over at all. You know, he bowled some really good balls that went into the heel of the batsman, but I think they just got the field placing wrong. They put fine leg up. And if they wanted to bowl that line, they should have had fine leg back and mid-off up. They just got the field wrong. It actually wasn't a bad over, but you know, in the context of the game, it looks like it was a bad over.
So the field settings, always important, which is why, and I'm trying to think who it was now, it was young Matt Renshaw, actually, who on social media suggested to the TV, one of the TV companies down in Australia, he wanted to see a field setting for every delivery on the screen. Next one is played by Turner. It hasn't gone nearer this time, but it will get to the boundary along the ground. It's a 4. Well, what an over. This is 134 for 4. 3 balls into this 16th over. If the field setting wasn't quite right for the previous over, what about this from Chris Green, Ravi?
Well, I think it's a little bit harder to set your fielding for a spinner, especially with only 2 men out. It's very difficult, especially when you've got set batsmen. So it's a little bit difficult, but with the seamer, I think they can make it a little bit easier for themselves. But what a surge this has been so far. Turner
24 off 9 balls, 134 for 4. 3 deliveries of the 16th over. It's Green with his spin into bowl to Turner again. This time it's full on the leg stump, and it's clipped away on the onside. They will think about coming back for 2. They'll have to run hard and fast, and they do. The throw in the end to the wicketkeeper's end, not the bowler's end. They get 2 runs, so Turner remains on strike. He's gone to 26, 136 for 4. 2 balls left to the 16th over. And Green again. He sighs, he's thinking, what am I supposed to do about this? In again, a little bit of width, he's off at this time, Turner. He's still got hold of it, and it's still going to be a 4. Through wide, long off. Well, Chris Green must be wanting it to swallow. It happens, it does happen, of course, but this is a horror time for Green at the moment, and off 1.5 overs, he's now gone for 30 runs, and that 4 brings up 140 for 4, 1 ball left to the 16th.
Yeah, I think you got a feel for Green here. They were hoping maybe that they got a single off the first ball, and he bowled most of his balls at the left-hander, but it's not gone that way. Turner's faced every ball so far, being a right-hander against off-spin.
So, Turner, 30 not out of 11 deliveries, 1 ball left of this power surge. It's the 16th over. Next ball is bowled, and that one is worked away square to the square leg fielder for a single, which I think makes it 40 runs off that power surge? Yes, it does. 40 runs and the score of 141 for 4 after 16. Turner on 31, Munro on 46. And they took the power surge at the overs and the time and the period in this first innings of a game that it seems as if the data is suggesting winning teams are taking the power surge. Now obviously there are going to be differences to match situations and match games, but do you see where that might be working, why it should be that 14-15 over mark, or should I say 15-16 over mark, if that's what it is, Ravi?
I think it's a little bit to do with when they do take it, it means that the opposition will bring in one of the death bowlers in for one of the overs a bit earlier, which means they're left a little bit open for the last 2 overs, which they would normally go with their first choice death bowlers, but if they've got to bowl one of the overs around the 15th, 16th over in the surge, it means someone else has got to fill in later on. So it's a good time to take it. It's a smart option.
And boy, did it work for the Scorchers there.
Yeah, I think you got to feel for Green there as well, given a really tough job. And I'm surprised that the captain went with the spinner. It's not been a pitch for spinners, and to ask him to bowl in the surge was a tough ask.
McAndrew in and bowls, and that's ramped away behind and caught. Yes, the catch has been taken. A good catch by Tanvir Sangha, and it's the end of Turner. He's gone for 31, 142 for 5. Started this 17th over. McAndrew straight back into the action. Quite happy he missed out on at least one of those last 2 overs, and he has got himself a wicket. Just not too far. Well, halfway between the circle and the boundary, that catch was taken in the end.
Yeah, it's a good bit of cricket there. I think it wasn't a bad shot. I think it was the right option. With the pace and bounce to help it over fine leg, but it was a slower ball which was well bowled, and a very, very good catch running back as well, over your shoulder. Always the most difficult catches to take when you're running backwards.
You talked about it earlier, Ravi, that idea of trying to make sure that it's not behind you, so to speak, that you've got it there in front of you, and those catches are difficult. You don't always see them taken. Often or many times you'll see a fielder get to that worst position possible, which is there to take the catch, but just not in the right shape, just not in the right place to be able to hold on to it. And on that occasion, Sangha took a good catch. That Chris Green bowling when he did, that would suggest, would it not? You may disagree that the bowlers used for the power surge is something which is sort of all but set in stone ahead of the game, that the captain, the coach and the bowlers will have worked out which bowlers are going to be used for the power surge? It
did look that way because, look, Chris Green has been known...
McAndrew in bowls to Munro. The batters having crossed, and Munro will pick up at least 1 here. And will he settle for 1? Yes, he will. Settle for it. He's gone on a Sunday stroll for that single. 142 for 5.
Chris Green in the past has been known to bowl in the power plays. He's been very good with the new ball, but that's up front. That's when the batters ain't quite set. They're still playing themselves in, and their openers as well, who don't often play against spin early in their innings. But in the middle of the innings, towards the end, to bowl a spinner with only 2 men out, I think is criminal, unless it's turning square. I think it's questions to be asked from the management, the captain, because it looks like that decision was made way before the game had started.
Hardy faces his first delivery. McAndrew bowls to him now. It's a leading edge in the air in the offside. They'll go through for 1. Hardy knew very little about it. He then got woken up by Munro screaming at him to go for the single. So he's on to 1, and 143 for 5 the score.
Yeah, it just looks as if that ball surprised him a little bit. Again, that ridiculous bounce. He just tried to tuck that into a leg side for a single, and it's just rised up to his chest area, and he got a leading edge safe though.
At this stage, the Scorchers could be on course here for this average score. Batting first this ground, 171. They're 143 for 5 in the 17th over. That one's on the leg stump, fall from McAndrew to Munro. It rolls along the ground. There are 2 fielders trying to cut it off, and one of them gets to it now. The right arm throw, and it's Green, who must still be chuntering to himself, still going through his mind what happened to him in that previous over. But the right arm throw, they'll get 2 runs, will the Scorchers, and Munro moves to 49, 145 for 5.
Yeah, and I think the Thunder just got a couple of things wrong there in that surge. They got their field placing wrong, I think, to start with, to Monroe. They were looking...
McAndrew to Monroe. Monroe will push the ball into the offside. He'll scamper through for one. He'll bring up the 50. The crowd like it. Monroe, it's not been an easy night for him at all, but his 50 off 40 deliveries, 146 for 5. One ball left to the 17th over. It's his 42nd career 50 in T20 cricket. He's, during his career, gone on to score 4 centuries. But his performance tonight with 1 4 and 3 6 is much needed by the Scorchers.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic innings actually, and if you look at the scorecard and it says 40 balls, you'd think he hasn't quite got going, but I thought he's played brilliantly with the wickets falling around him and how difficult it has been to score.
McAndrew into Hardy again. Hardy onto his toes. He's a tall lad anyway, pushes it into the offside. There's a big enough gap to go through for a single. Hardy to 2, 17 overs gone, 147 for 5. Hardy 2, Monroe on 50. Just having a look at Monroe this season, that's his 3rd 50 of the campaign. He's now scored over 200 runs. In his 8th game, the Scorchers just running 1 game behind all the others, so this is just his 8th game of the season. His highest score is 52 so far. As I say, that's his 3rd 50 of the campaign.
Yes, it's been a pretty good campaign for him. I think he's done well, and he's put the Scorchers in a very, very good position here.
He certainly has, and setting up what hopefully will be an exciting, interesting game. We've had a few to enjoy. I mean, one went down to the more or less the last ball. There's just one ball remaining when the Renegades finally got to win a game again in BBL 10 last night. How close will it all run this evening? Well, time will tell. And it's going to be Hardy who's on strike to face the first ball of the 18th over, which is to be bowled by Ben Cutting, whose 3 overs so far have gone for 24 runs. He's in bowls now. That's more or less a low full toss, I think, just wide of the off stump, and thumped away along the ground through extra cover. 2 runs for Hardy. He moves to 4, and the score moves up to 149 for 5 in the 18th over.
So just going back to that surge and just getting their field placings wrong. I think the obvious plan to Monroe was to bowl at his heels, and if you're going to bowl at a batter's heel, especially if you bowl 90 miles per hour, you want to have your fine leg back.
It's Hardy facing now. He's on 4. That's a little short and has been pulled away, and with aplomb from Hardy. Along the ground, it's 4 runs. He's on to 8, and it's 152 for 5 in the 18th. 153 for 5, beg your pardon.
Yeah, this score just keeps climbing. We were looking at 150, 160 after the 10th over, but that's been blown out of the water, and they're looking at more 180 now, and I think 180 would be a formidable score.
Okay, what should the Thunder do now? What damage done in the last few overs, to say the least, Ravi? What should the captain be thinking about now?
Well, he's got to think wickets, because you don't want these two to be batting the next, 16 balls.
Cutting to Hardy again. Hardy this time aerial, but it's going to be safe through mid-wicket. Fielder up off the boundary now. Right arm throw, 1 run. Hardy to 9, 154 for 5.
But I think a lot at this stage of the innings, there's not a lot a captain can do. I think it's more the execution of the bowlers. They know that they've got to bowl Yorkers and bowl slower balls into a good area. Maybe keep one side of the pitch out of play, one side of the ground out of play, whether you want the batter to hit through the offside or you just want him to exclusively hit through the leg side.
Cutting to Monroe, who's 50 not out, looking for width there. He gets an edge on it through to the keeper, and the bat almost follows him. He throws in disgust, Monroe, or frustration. It's been a good knock, but he's now gone. Caught by the keeper Billings off the bowling of Cutting. He keeps on throwing that bat. I should keep hold of it if I were you. It could take you an age to get off. 154 for 6 in the 18th over. He's hugely frustrated. A wide delivery, reaching for it, Ravi. He gets a toe end.
Yeah, very frustrated. I think a little bit of that frustration is to do with in the last 3 innings. I think he's gone 50, 50, 50 or something, I think, or maybe even 51 in one of those. So I think that frustration of not taking that 50 onto, pushing it onto 70, 75, and giving himself a really good total. But very well bowled. He went for the wide line there and catching the edge and taking that very, very important wicket.
He's given them a a good score here, but of course, to make it a very good score, they're looking for another 20 or 30 if they can. We wait and see if they'll be able to do that. And just waiting to see who the next batter is. It's going to be Jai Richardson, I think, who's kind of come out. Yeah, Jai Richardson's next for the Scorchers. In terms of his batting this season, Jai Richardson, well, he hasn't had a lot of it, to be honest. He's only scored 21 runs from his 7 matches played. He's got an average of 7, so a lot of work to be done here, but maybe it's just he's not had his opportunity. And will he take it this evening? He just tickles that one round the corner for a single, down towards fine leg, so he's off the mark, and 1 ball left to the 18th, 155 for 6.
Yeah, the Thunder have taken that wicket exactly at the right time. I think they needed it. They needed a breakthrough, because the last thing you want is 2 set batters batting all the way through for the last 3 overs, because some serious damage can be done. To pick up that wicket at that time was crucial, and I think, well, now they're into the bowlers, especially at one end, so they can limit the damage here and keep this score below 175.
Hardy on 9, cutting balls to him now. He tries to put plenty behind that. It's gone through mid-wicket, straight to the fielder, McAndrew, and right on throw. There'll be 1 more to the total. It's 18 overs completed, 156 for 6. Hardy on 10. Richardson's only just got out there, and Cutting 1 for 33 from his 4 overs for Ben Cutting. Match is building up very nicely here at the Optus Stadium. Big Bash 10. And if you are just joining us, the context of this game is the Scorchers had an horrific start to the competition, but they've pulled things round. They've had 3 wins on the bounce, including 2 here at the Optus Stadium, that they're playing tonight against the Thunder. The Thunder top the table, having won 6 and lost 2. So a chance for the Scorchers to go in the all-important top 5 as well this evening. The 5 teams, top 5, will qualify for the eliminator stage. But the context is set, Ravi, hopefully for a cracking game.
Yeah, and I mean, and I do like these type of pitches. I do like watching cricket on these type of pitches, because it's a good test for the batsman. You know, it brings the bowlers into play a little bit. Sometimes we see in T20 cricket where, you know, the bat really dominates the bowling, but this is giving something back to the bowlers. But if you bat well and you get set, then it's a lovely pitch to bat on.
Hardy 10 not out. Milne for his final over, playing a miss of a wideish ball through to the keeper. 156 for 6. So you have bowlers sometimes looking for this width on the offside and trying to keep it wide there. You sometimes have them sort of just going on, as you say, on that ankle on the leg stump, and sometimes you see batters moving away, trying to create a little bit of space for themselves. It's a cracking game to follow and work out who, you know, in the mind, who's going to be on top, bowler or batter. It's one of the great battles, isn't it? One of the great parts, should I say, of T20 cricket. This next delivery is played behind square for a single for Hardy. He moves to 11, and the score up now to 157 for 6 in the 19th over.
Yeah, a bit of good bowling there from Mills. Again, he's gone wide again, and he's fired in that Yorker slightly wide of off stump. He's obviously going with the wide Yorker theory, which I think is the right option to Hardy, having faced 8 balls and pretty set. I think it's a good option. I think to Richardson, it'll be a smart idea probably to go at the stumps and maybe get a couple of dot balls if he can, bring the field in.
Let's see what he does. Bowls now. Well, he was going on the stumps, and he's actually found a bit of space, but a good stop down there at third man with a throw which isn't collected cleanly by Billings. I'm not too sure where the fault was there, but it allows them to go through for another run. I need to see that again to see what the problem was there for Billings. I think, was it Brendan Doggett with the throw? Let's take a look. Who was it down there? I mean, initially, you've got to congratulate him on a very good piece of fielding to drag it back in. The right arm throw, Ravi. What goes wrong here for Billings? Oh, right onto his boots.
Oh yeah, well, it was a tough throw. It was sort of one bounce.
Richardson's 3 not out. Next delivery. He's gone straight and high. How far's he gone? A long way for 6. Richardson takes his score from 3 to 9, and the score 159 for 6 in the 19th over.
I think Milne's gone for a slower ball there at the stumps, and well picked from Richardson, and slotted straight back over Milne's head for 6.
So from Milne's point of view, Well, let's have a look. Well, it's right in the slot if we take a look at the replay there. But Richardson was onto it quickly, wasn't he? And played it very, very nicely.
Yeah, it was a slower ball, picked well. I'm not sure Milnes needs to go with the slower ball to the low order batsman. I think he's got enough pace to disrupt what we call the bowlers.
This is Milne to Richardson. Right arm of Milne in, and he tries to heave that away. He created space, went wide of his off stump, tried to lap it. I don't know what he was trying to do. Pull it, and he missed it, and it's through to the keeper.
Well, it was the right option. He got the right ball for it. He just didn't execute the shot. It was a full toss just outside off stump, which he'd moved across the stumps for, and sort of went for a lap over fine leg, and he got the perfect ball for it, but he just missed out.
Next ball, bowled. He's gone the same. This time he's going to be 4. Again, it was wide-ish of the off stump, and he sort of slaps this one more than anything. And he finds a gap. He finds the gap perfectly for the boundary. Moves to 11, 169 for 6 now, and that's the end of the 19th over. And Milne, another bowler who trudges off Ravi Bafara, thinking, well, that could have gone a little bit better. No wicket for 36.
Yeah, well, not quite executing his last over as well as he did, in his previous over. Although, the previous over obviously went for a lot of runs because of the leg byes, but just a few too many full tosses in this over, which allows the batsman. You don't have to use as much skill when it's a full toss. You just put the bat through the ball and hope that it finds a gap.
Now Nathan McAndrew will be thinking to himself, my figures look quite good at the moment, Ravi. 1 for 15 from 3 overs, but he's seen what's happened to the others. So what do you think we might expect to see from McAndrew?
Yeah, well, it has been 3 overs for 15. It's been a very good 3 overs, but this is the testing time.
He's bowling to Hardy, short, he's gone, and that's gone over the leg side, and that's a 6. Taking a look at that, you're thinking, where's that gone? How far's it gone? And then, well, it's a good shot. It's cleared the rope.
Well, the boundaries ain't massive here at Perth. They've always, especially those straight boundaries, they're quite short. And, if you do get a decent amount of bat on it, you generally get your value.
There's one thing to be said of Richardson and Hardy, that they're tall. I mean, Hardy looks a real strong character. Physique-wise, and that one's just under the bottom of the bat, and they're quick and alert to go for a single. 176 for 6.
Excellent ball there, tucking the batsman out, fired in at his toes, and there's not much you can do with that ball unless you get an inside edge, a lucky inside edge at Pete's short fine.
Richardson is tall, just like Hardy. He looks a little leaner in terms of sort of muscle. That's not to say he's not a strong lad, just got a sort of body form, if you like, but he'll try if he can to do what Hardy did and clear the rope. Let's see if he can succeed. Well, he tries to help it on its way, and it falls just short of Billings, who tells everybody just to calm down. Not too much running around. Hold on. The crowd will tell you that the umpire has got himself involved, calling a wide for height.
Yeah, well, it was a slower ball bouncer, and then I've got to admit it was wide down leg side, and it's...
Now what McAndrew is saying is he's got bat on it, and the umpire has said to him, well, I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, okay, well, he's a little bit unlucky. He's got a little bit of glove on that, which, because it was a slow ball, it didn't quite carry to the keeper. So
that was glove, not bat, but... Yeah. So he went on the call from the square leg umpire on height, and that's resulted in that wide. So that one is played. The next delivery is played behind square on the onside. They'll settle for 1, and the score moves to 178 for 6 midway through the 20th over. Well, there is one thing about this crowd, and they're large in number in the large stadium, which is lovely to see again, of course, is they let you know when things are happening.
They do, and that's the best thing about the crowd. They let you know everything. Drop catches, wides, all sorts.
And wide balls. Hardy on 18, especially when it's their lads who are being penalised. McAndrew bowls now to Hardy. He says him sort of low down on the pads, but he was looking to launch that away with some gusto on the leg side, but it runs down towards short third man. It's 1 more to the total. And the score's 179 for 6 now. 2 balls left of this innings, of this 20th over.
Got the right ball there, actually. It was a sort of shin height full toss. Perfect ball for you at the death as a batsman, but not quite getting hold of it.
McAndrew to bowl to Richardson on 14 not out. 2 balls remaining this innings. Bowls now, and that's a Yorker length delivery, which, it goes under the body of the field, and therefore it's going to be run, a boundary, shall I say, 4 runs, and it's Ben Cutting who got down to that, and somehow it squeezed under his body and then over the rope. Well, where did he get that shot from to start off with, Ravi?
It's an incredible shot for a lower order batsman to have that sort of skill, to be able to get it out underneath his feet and get any power into that.
But Cutting then, having got his hands to it, couldn't stop it from going over for a boundary. So it's 183 for 6. Final ball of the innings. Where's this going to go? It's on the onside. Fielder comes up off the boundary. Fields it clean this time with Ross. They'll come back for 2, and they'll settle for 2. And it's 185 for 6 after 20 overs. Hardy on 19, Richardson on 20. Well, I've got to say that was a thrilling last 5 or 6 overs, Ravi Bopara. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was a brilliant last 5 overs for the Scorchers. I thought they played it perfectly in the end. The starting with Monroe, getting himself in and taking that surge at the time they took it was almost just perfect. And then it left the Thunder a little bit exposed towards the death. Not sure they got their field placing right at times. I don't think they bowled badly, but they just set their fields right. I think they could have been a little bit more successful, but take nothing away from the Scorchers. Great hitting, great lower order hitting, and actually a very, very, very good score, especially on this wicket.
I was going to say, I mean, if you're coming out now as the Thunder, well, they'll be gathering, they'll be looking at this score. What will they be saying to themselves? Because the Scorchers made a slow start. Now, you talked about it earlier, that perhaps it's the way not to really come out of the traps really hard and fast, but you've got a big total and a target to chase down here now for the Thunder. So what will they be saying to their top order batters just ahead of them going out?
Well, I think they'll be going to the change rooms saying, look guys, it's a good wicket, they'll be saying it's a par score, which is not far off a par score. I mean, I think 171 has been the par score here.
That's right.
So it's not a massive way off that. It is a very good wicket. It does have a lot of bounce in it. I think it's hard to start, but I think once you're in, we did mention earlier, once you're in as a batsman, it looks very easy to score and get your boundaries.
Ravi, you take a break. Thank you. Back with you shortly, in the next 5 or 10 minutes or so. Let's just quickly run down some of the scores then for the Scorchers who were put into bat here. Jason Roy, Liam Livingstone yet really to get their campaigns going as they would both like. Jason Roy was out for 14, Liam Livingstone made only 3. Josh Inglis was out for 20. It was a slow start, it really was. Then Mitchell Marsh came out. He only made 15, but this from 11 balls with a couple of 4s. Started to get going. Ashton Turner and Colin Munro really kicked it on. Ashton Turner made 31 of 13 deliveries, 3 4s and a couple of 6s. Colin Munro made 50 of 41 deliveries, 1 4, 3 6s. And then we saw Aaron Hardy not out 19 off 11 balls, and Jai Richardson not out 20 off 8 balls. Hardy with 1 6 1 4, Jai Richardson with a couple of 4s and a 6. There were 13 extras, 185 for 6 off the 20 overs. Ty, Ahmed and Behrendorff didn't bat. Nathan McAndrew 4 overs, 1 for 31. Adam Milne 4 overs, no wicket for 36. Brendan Doggett brought into the team, 4 overs, 4 for 22, including a wicket with his first ball and 2 wickets in his first over. Chris Green 2 overs for 31 runs, that included one of the power surge overs. Ben Cutting 4 overs, 1 for 33. Tanvir Sangha 2 overs, no wicket for 22, so unable to add to his 15 wickets that he's taken so far in the competition for the spin-up. So there we are. Well, I really enjoyed that innings and I'm looking forward to the second part, and hopefully you will be as well, and you will stick around for it because it's only about 10 minutes or so away. But before that, let's head, so to speak, to the West Indies now to hear from a long-time friend of Test Match Special, Fazir Mohammed. He's been speaking to our correspondent Jonathan Agnew as part of TMS Voices of the World podcast, available on BBC Sounds. Looking back at his career, he told Aggers about the first time he commentated on a game of cricket.
I remember it perfectly. It was 1992, a regional first-class competition, Trinidad and Tobago versus Barbados, always an intense rivalry. Brian Lara, Phil Simmons, part of the Trinidad and Tobago team. Otis Gibson with Barbados. He took 7 wickets on that opening day. Lara scored 100. Phil Simmons scored a half century. But interestingly, having begged my sports editor at Radio Trinidad to be given an opportunity to do commentary, I was actually, my very first stint and the first 3 days involved in the 4-day match was as an expert comments man with no experience whatsoever, because the ball-by-ball positions were already filled. Reds Pereira, of course, was well known on the international scene and then still does a bit of work. Erskine King from Barbados, who was the visiting commentator, and Dave Lammy from Trinidad and Tobago, who was my sports editor at the time. So the spots were filled. And I was there and I was being introduced and people are wondering, who's this guy pretending to be an expert comments person? But I managed well enough. And interestingly, I never felt nervous. I never felt anxious. I wasn't sweating profusely because it just seems so natural to be talking about the game, even if it was now in a proper broadcast format. And as fate would have it, on the last day of the match, Reds had to leave early. Reds always has to go to something else somewhere in the Caribbean. He's always doing something somewhere else. And it actually allowed me the opportunity to fill in for him, doing proper ball-by-ball commentary. And from that point on, Agus, I realized this was what I was born to do.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And I love touring the Caribbean, but you're so aware of how many experts there are out there. I'm thinking of how many people would actually think that they were brilliant radio commentators themselves. You hear them doing it, don't you? Someone in the stands, and I mean, you say they took it very easily, but just to get that opening must have been a real bonus, in fact.
It was, and I suppose it's about being in the right place at the right time, because now, sadly, radio commentary is virtually dying in our part of the world, as it has in many other parts of the world, with television taking over. And you don't really get that opportunity as a young broadcaster anymore to hone your skills in the regional game or the local club game as a broadcaster. And it was really about being in the right place at the right time. I had transferred from the Trinidad Guardian newspaper to Radio Trinidad. And as it turned out, Dave Lammy, who I had mentioned, he was on his way to another media opportunity, and that created a window for me to take advantage of. And it really was a bit of luck, a bit of talent, and a mixture of both, and taking advantage of it.
Yeah. It is great fun there, and there is that the politics, like it is in all the Caribbean and the different countries and so on. It's there in the radio commentary. You've got to have someone from each particular country, haven't you? Make sure that the home country is represented and so on. All of that goes on certainly on an England cricket tour that I'm aware of. When I pop into the local box, it's just tinkering away under the surface, isn't it?
It's not tinkering under the surface at all. It's right there in your face. I mean, the stories you can, the stories you can tell, Agus. I mean, I would travel in those early years, was having started in 1992. You travel at your own expense to get opportunities to do commentary elsewhere on the Caribbean chain. And I remember doing a match in Montserrat, the very last first-class match played in Montserrat in 1994, before the volcano, the Lance Soufriere, properly erupted and destroyed much of the southern half of the island. And as it turned out, there was a real inter-island rivalry. If you could think of it, that being intense among the islands, imagine what it's like